I was fascinated by the entire end of game strategy, and I don't think enough is made. And I think more needs to be made during the broadcast. And I love Al Michaels, one of the great voices of all time. When somebody asks me, hey, what do you think of Tom Brady as a broadcaster? Like, look, you got Al Michaels, Pat Summerall, John Madden, and everybody else. And no disrespect to anyone else that isn't Al Michaels, Pat Summerall, John Madden. But in my mind, it's very simple. Unless you are completely and totally inept, you're in that very wide swath of everyone who isn't Al Michaels, Pat Summerall, John Madden, in my mind. Okay? So, that said, man, and I remember a game last year where the Eagles were up 16 over Washington, and like the whole vibe from the booth was, this is over. It's like, dude, it ain't over. There are 2 scores.
Right.
Two-pointers. And after the Commanders scored, it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe this isn't over. And I say that because when Tee Higgins slid inside the 10 last night, when he could have scored the touchdown, here we go. 1:46 to go.
Here.
Tee Higgins makes the great catch, gets down inside the 10, and slides to a stop, setting the Bengals up for a potential game-winning field goal. Here's the problem. There's still 1:40 left in the game. Now, the Bengals did a masterful job of bleeding every possible second they could before they kicked the field goal.
Yep.
Including Joe Flacco not doing the immediate knee, getting the ball, stepping back a little bit, take another tick. But they still had to, in a year where we've seen as many blocked field goals as we ever have, they still had to make the field goal.
Yes.
And even though there were only, how much time left? Was it 7 seconds on the clock? 8?
7 seconds after the kick.
It was 7.
7 seconds.
7 after the field goal. Okay.
Yep.
You still got to put the ball in play. And what are you going to do? Are you going to screw this up and try to get cute with the dirty ball and end up short of the 20 and give the Steelers the ball at the 40? We saw that in the Seahawks-Cardinals game. We saw it in overtime of the 49ers-Rams game. So what are you going to do? And I think most coaches there would say, you kick that ball and you make them return it and take time off the clock. Like we saw all the way back in week 1, where the Vikings were trying to get to the 2-minute warning so the Bears wouldn't have the natural stoppage that came from that. Run the ball out. There are certain circumstances where you got to run the ball out. The Steelers were smart there to take a knee. The Bengals should have put the ball in play because you had 7 seconds with Aaron Rodgers on his 35. And I thought he had enough time to maybe get it to the 50. I mean, it was never mentioned. Chris Boswell kicked a 60-yard game winner week 1. So you get it to the 50, and that's a 67-yard game winner. And we've seen these guys with the cannon legs and the K-balls. Just tell us that. Just plant that flag. That's where I was losing my mind. There was no mention, no discussion, no reference to the reality that when the Steelers get the ball with 7 seconds left on their own 35, they got 6 ticks of the clock to get the ball to the 50 or the 47. We've been talking about somebody making a 70-yard field goal. They were 12 yards away, and they had 7 seconds to get there for Chris Boswell to try a 70-yard field goal. And for the people who aren't, and again, I don't want to be critical of Al Michaels, but for the people who aren't in the weeds of the game and following it as closely as we do, that's useful information. You need to be telling people, hey, guess what could happen here? And then guess what else could happen? They did mention the Hail Mary, but, and it is funny. We're talking, this is where I'm taking the pin back out, and then I'll shut up. I promise. Joe Flacco was chill all night. All night. Until they cut to Joe Flacco as Aaron Rodgers was getting ready to run the Hail Mary play, and he kind of had that look of, oh, shit. Like, yeah, we've seen this movie before. Great play by the defender.
This guy could do this.
But what a throw, 69.8 yards in the air, according to Next Gen Stats.
He still has it.
So my point is.
Hell of a throw, Mike.
I don't know that Tee Higgins going down was such the brilliant move. I don't think it's time for the Nobel Peace Prize for Tee Higgins for taking the knee at the 6. I think you take the touchdown when you can, because there was still more of a sliver than the broadcast would even begin to acknowledge.
Exactly right. So for those 59 minutes, I'd say 59 minutes, we talked about all the things that game could provide for officials as they're being trained in New York, or at least I imagine it. In this auditorium, and they got the slides up there. Okay, how about this? And they got the film, and they're training the officials. That's for 59 minutes.
Oh, that'd be great.
That last
full
minute,
time, that's what they would do. Hang on a second. That's exactly why they need full-time officials.
Bring it on.
Do it every week.
I want it. I've been asking for it for 20 years. I desperately want full-time officials. I don't like the situation of, hey, that official that you saw last night, if you need to call him on Wednesday, he's not available because he's a school superintendent in Topeka, Kansas. Or, or this guy's a dentist. What are you talking about? We're talking about football, and he's talking about, hey, how are your molars doing today? I don't know. But I would say
James Sterator, who ran a janitorial supply company in Washington, Pennsylvania.
It's incredible. But that last minute was for the analytics people, for the sports talk show host, everybody, because there's more debate. As you said, there should have been more debate than, oh, that's a brilliant play from Tee Higgins, one. And then after the game, I could hear them talking about, oh, he wasn't selfish. His selfish thing to do was just to score a touchdown. I'm like, well, no, not necessarily. Okay, I'll say for this game, I think it's a game-by-game situation is what I'm getting at. For this particular game, yes, I'll agree. Tee Higgins, that was the right thing to do, because if you score a touchdown, and let's say you score a touchdown and you go for 2 and you convert, there's still no guarantee you're up 38-31, right? So there's no guarantee in the last minute and a half that your defense can stop the Steelers. They just haven't. That second half, it was just back and forth, and it really was a case of who has the ball last. Fortunately, the Steelers had the ball last, and they needed about 15 or 20 more yards to do what you mentioned earlier. But in some games, I say just score the damn touchdown. Score the touchdown. I would much rather be in a situation if I don't have the Bengals defense. Let's say I got the Broncos defense behind me. Let's say I've got a top 5, top 10 defense. Then I am not going to slide in that situation. I want to score, and I'll let my defense go out and take its chances against an offense driving the field and scoring a touchdown to beat us. I don't think it's going to go against us. So I think it's just become too easy to say that's the right play. I think it was the right play last night. Is it the right play every time, Mike? I don't think so.
Well, and that's the point. This isn't whether or not it was right. It's whether or not it was clearly right. And it was sold to us last night as this was clearly the right thing to do. No, it wasn't, because of we've seen so many blocked field goals this year. And you don't need many ticks on the clock when you start at the 35 in order to get in field goal range for a guy who's already proven, combined with the K-ball that may or may not be filled with a little flubbergas. Google it, kids. You can get in position for that long field goal, that record field goal. That's all you got to say. Hey, and that wasn't mentioned either. They made this perfunctory. Oh, they got to put the ball between the The 20. No. This is, we've seen this movie on Thursday Night Football. You got it. What are you going to do here? What are you going to do here? And, I had a conversation with a head coach the morning after the Seahawks-Cardinals game when the Cardinals dialed up the dirty ball that came up short of the landing area and gave the Seahawks enough time to get the game-winning field goal. And the coach said, you can't throw that pitch unless you know it's going to be a strike. And first of all, if I don't have a kicker who can make that pitch 100 out of 100 times, I need a new kicker. But that was like, what are we going to do here? Are we going to try to skitter it into the end zone and put the Steelers on the 20? That's the best outcome. Put them at the 20. But there's a risk there. You may put them at the 40. You put the ball inside the 5 and you make them return it. Tick, tick, tick. They get to the 35, 40. There's only 3 seconds left. There's your Hail Mary. That's ultimately what they had. You put it out of the end zone, you put it 35. I don't think enough, and I don't know if the Steelers really were thinking about this. They were 13 yards away from Chris Boswell attempting a 70-yard field goal. And they had 7 seconds to gain 13 yards. They gained 5 in 4 seconds. You run that route a little deeper, you let Rodgers throw that piss missile, you get the ball to the 48, you got a 70-yard NFL record Chris Boswell attempt, and 5 years ago we would have said, go ahead, try your 70-yard field goal. Now, you'd be like, wait, is this a guy that kicked the 60-yarder week 1 that was good by like 10, 15 yards? Is that the same? Uh-oh. So all I'm saying is, and this is all part of the service that we got to think about for the fans in real time, and this isn't some new concept. It doesn't take many ticks on. It doesn't take much time to get that game-winning field goal if you're the Steelers. And even though they didn't last night, that doesn't prove that it's always clearly the right thing to do. It worked out last night, but it's a much more delicate balance than it was sold as.
No question. It should have been. It's a great debate. And I'm guessing if you talk to 32 coaches, it may not be a split. I mean, maybe most coaches say, oh, yeah, we want to do that. Our clock management, we'll take our chances. The Bengals did a good job. They got it down to 11. He makes the kick. Now it's down to 7 seconds, no return, and you've got your quarterback with a play or two. We like our chances there. Maybe most coaches would say, I like what Tee Higgins did. But this is where the psychology factors in too, and tell me if you agree with it. If you're the Steelers at 4, coming into the game at 4-1, if you're the Steelers and you have that situation, maybe you slide and take the field goal and bleed the clock. But if you're the Bengals, you lost Joe Burrow for the season. You had Jake Browning come in. You got a 4-game losing streak. You've seen all kinds of crazy shit happen this year. I'm sorry. I'm scoring the touchdown because I don't trust it. Hey, McPherson, you're a great kicker. I love you. I mean it. But no, we got a 4-game losing streak, and I'm not going to let it come down to your kick to save us. I see the end zone. I'm not being selfish. I'm just tired of losing. I think it factors in depending on where you are in your season and what kind of team you play for. If you're the Tennessee Titans, if you're the New York Jets, you score the touchdown. Cincinnati Bengals, they're not quite the Jets. They're not today. But last night they were heading toward Jet territory. I'm just surprised. The end zone's in front of me. I just need to score. I need to score. I'll take my chances.
I was hoping upon hope that the Steelers would win, not because I picked the Steelers to win and the Bengals to cover. I threaded that 5.5 needle. I wanted the Steelers to win to be right. People accuse me of being Steelers fan after a Vikings fan. I've lived in and around Pittsburgh my entire life. I've never been a Steelers fan, but okay, if people want to think that, that's fine. I just wanted to be able, especially because we were having the conversation on the PFT writers thread. And one of the writers was very strident about how brilliant it was that Tee Higgins did what he ended. It's like, no. This can still blow up in their faces. And I was praying that it did, just so I could say, see, this is why it wasn't brilliant. There was too much time on the clock, and they worked it perfectly to leave the Steelers with as few seconds as possible. But 7 seconds is still enough when you start at the 35 to get in Chris Boswell field goal range. And that's what they should have done. That's where they screwed up. And then we had the Hail Mary.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.